Insane ancient Egypt, discover the shocking truth behind their bizarre junk food at 3 a.m. The moon hung high over the pyramids, casting long, eerie shadows that danced like ghosts on the hot desert sand. This wasn't just a typical night in Egypt, it was a night that whispered secrets from centuries long gone. The air was thick with mystery and anticipation. What if you could taste the junk food that captivated an entire civilization? What if those ancient snacks were more than mere relics of the past? What if they held the power to unlock the mysteries of the afterlife? A strange hush enveloped the bustling market as whispers circulated about the legendary pyramid pops, a concoction said to blend honey, nuts, and a peculiar blend of herbs. They were rumored to make anyone who dared sample them feel an intoxicating rush, almost as if they could transcend time itself. With each pop sold at midnight, people claimed to experience flashes of past lives. The locals warned that consuming them at precisely 3 a.m. invited the spirits of pharaohs to join you. The thrill of it was tantalizing. Who wouldn't want to dine with history? As the clock struck 3, a soft wind rustled through the stalls, carrying the scent of spices and myths. You could almost hear the echo of ancient laughter, blending with the distant call of a jackal. It was a time for daring souls, and the bravest among them gathered near. Rumors fluttered like moths around a flame someone had vanished after tasting the pyramid pops last year. Just poof. Gone. No trace left behind, except for the faint whisper of their name carried by the wind. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The crowd grew restless as the stories intertwined with possibility. The faint sound of drums echoed in the background, a tempo picking up as if summoning the night. Suddenly, a figure appeared, draped in shadow. Was it a prankster or something sinister? Murmurs rippled through the audience. But as the figure stepped into the flickering light, gasps filled the air. It was a local who had tried the pyramid pops before. His eyes glowed, almost unearthly. I saw them. He yelled, voice trembling. The ancient ones. They're guarding the truth. People edged closer, hearts pounding. This was at the moment everyone had been waiting for. Would he reveal the secrets of the pyramid pops or leave them hanging in a cloud of uncertainty? The tension was palpable, heavy like a stone. Shadows writhed as the chilling reality dawned on them. The truth might be more shocking than they ever imagined. What had he seen? And could what they experienced be real? The night was far from over, and the answers were lurking, just beyond their grasp. The crowd held their breath as the man gazed into the distance, as if searching for something invisible. A shiver ran down the spines of those gathered. What reality had he stepped into? They told me, he stammered, they showed me. The pyramid pops, they're not just food. They are a key. A wave of chatter erupted. Some laughed nervously, while others clung to the edges of their stalls as if fearing they might be swept into the shadows. The man raised a hand, his voice cutting through the noise. You don't understand. I felt their presence, the pharaohs. They want something from us. His eyes darted around, a mix of fear and excitement reflecting in their depths. They're watching, and we must listen. The proclamation sent a ripple of dread through the crowd, mingling with the spicy fragrance of the market. What do they want? A voice dared to ask, cutting through the tension. A heavy silence enveloped them, the weight of anticipation almost suffocating. The air crackled with the promise of revelation. Your souls. He shouted. They crave offerings. But, he paused, scanning the worried faces, they can also grant you visions. The visions are clear, but not without a price. A chill swept through the bystanders. It was one thing to crave glory from the past, but quite another to barter one's very soul for it. Whispers ignited again, some warning of the dangers, others intrigued. What was a glimpse of ancient prowess worth? The very thought sent pulses of adrenaline rushing through the air. Stay away from the pops. Someone yelled from the back, but the man continued as if he hadn't heard. If you dare, I dare, shouted a young woman from the front. She stood, her arms crossed defiantly. The crowd gasped. Tell me. What do I have to lose? Everything. The man's voice cracked with urgency. The more you know, the further you fall. The spirits possess you. You lose yourself to them. But you can also gain power. The young woman stepped closer, her determination infectious. She looked around, her gaze meeting the wide-eyed faces caught between fear and a morbid curiosity. I want the truth. Give me the pyramid pop. No. A chorus of voices erupted, pleading and frantic. But the moment was spiraling out of control. The air was thick with anticipation and fear, and before anyone could react, she moved towards the stall. The vendor smirked knowingly as he handed over the pyramid pop. It looked innocuous enough, a blend of honeyed goodness with nuts glistening in the moonlight. It felt warm in her hand, almost alive. The crowd gasped collectively, breathless, as she raised it to her lips. Stop! Came a desperate shout from the shadows. Darkness enveloped them, swallowing the moon's glow. The drums beat faster, the rhythm echoing the frantic pulse in her chest. There's no going back. And then, in a flash she took a bite. The world erupted around her. The moment the sweet morsel hit her tongue, everything changed. Colors heightened, sounds warped, and the night itself seemed to breathe deeply, expanding in ways unimagined. With that first bite came a flash of otherworldly presence. Ancient voices, a parade of pharaohs, beckoned her, blurred between reality and a dream. She felt the weight of eyes upon her as she spiraled further into the dark. The crowd remained frozen, their last glimpse of her turning into a haunting vision. Was this the price of curiosity, a final dance with the ancient world? As the moon shone ominously above, whispers floated in the wind. Just when it seemed certainty would reign, chaos echoed. What have you done? And then silenced swiftly. A rush of panic spread through the crowd. The beating drums were no longer a playful call, they sounded instead a warning. How many others would dare to join her in this uncharted fate? The clock was ticking, and the spirits were restless. In the distance, the ground shifted, a low rumble that sent a wave of fear through the onlookers. The sands of the desert began to swirl as if some ancient power was awakening. What had they unleashed? What would come next? The night had darkened. But one question lingered above all: who will be next to step into the abyss? The air turned electric, crackling with an energy that felt tangible, like static before a storm. The crowd gasped and shifted, panic rippling through them like waves against a rocky shore. Eyes wide, hearts racing, they instinctively formed a huddle, desperate for safety yet burned by an unspeakable curiosity. They had witnessed the young woman swallow the forbidden treasure, and now they could only wait, fearing what would come next. A sudden gust of wind blew through the market, sending dust swirling into the air. Lights flickered, illuminating faces ghostly pale, lips trembling as the rhythmic beating of drums intensified. Each beat echoed within their chests, synchronizing their heart rates with the thundering calls of ancient spirits. Unease settled heavily in their stomachs, the pull of the unknown terrifying yet intoxicating. From the back of the crowd, an older man with weary eyes stepped forward. He held his hands up, steadying his voice against the rising tide of frightened shouts. Listen! He roared, his voice a low rumble like an approaching thunderstorm. This is no game. She has summoned something unparalleled. The crowd turned, a mix of skepticism and hope weakening their resolve. We don't know what we're doing. Someone shouted, but the shadows seemed to listen, drawing closer around them like a curtain closing around a stage. At that moment, the young woman who had bitten into the pyramid pop began to twitch violently, her body spasming as the lights flickered uncertainly. Gasps broke the air, and the laughter from earlier turned to frenzied cries. She fell to her knees, eyes rolling back, a silent scream etched across her expression. The spirits within her were awakening. "Help her!" A voice cried, but what could anyone do against forces they could not understand? The energy roared like a living thing, swirling. The crowd, caught between the lure of curiosity and instinct, hesitated, unsure whether to flee or watch. An icy chill wrapped around them, extinguishing the warmth of the bustling market. "She is a vessel now," the man's voice cracked again, "and the pharaohs will use her, unless we intervene." "Intervene how?" A man shouted back, desperation lacing his words. "Do we have to eat the pop too?" A collective silence. Heavy, suffocating. The air thickened with tension, and the drumbeat suddenly fell silent, replaced by a whisper so gentle it could barely be heard above their own pounding hearts. "Join us," it beckoned, a seductive promise. The young woman jerked her head up, her eyes now pools of shadow and scintillating light. "Power, it's intoxicating," she murmured, voice distorted. Was it truly her? Or had she become something else entirely? A hand shot through the crowd, reaching out to her. A young boy, trembling, stood close enough to touch her. "Please. It's just food. You can fight it." But it was too late. The wind howled through the market, lifting clouds of sand into the air, swirling around them, blurring the line between reality and something far darker. She opened her mouth, not to scream, but to speak an incantation that cut through the rising panic like a knife. "Together we can rise if you dare." Again, the question hung in the air, suffocating. Who else would take the leap? With terror wrapped tightly around their throats, some arms reached for the stalls filled with pyramid pops glowing eerily in the dimming light. Temptation clawed at their resolve. Would they crave the power as she did? Or would rescue come in time? "Will you stand with me or falter in fear?" she demanded, now staring into their souls. As eyes widened in fearful fascination, the earth continued to tremble beneath them. Was another sacrifice on the brink? Would the crowd push their limits? Suddenly, from the shadows, a deafening roar erupted, shaking every bone in their bodies. Something wanted out. Something ancient. Who would answer the call? The time had come to choose to embrace the shadows or risk losing everything. The air vibrated with tension, and each heart in the crowd raced faster. The young woman was no longer just a girl, they could see it now. She was an avatar of something larger, more terrible, and powerful than any of them could grasp. The shadows deepened around her as if they were alive, wrapping around her like serpents, coiling tighter with every breath she took. "Come join me," she urged, her voice an echo of many. The crowds murmured, fear battling curiosity as the wild energy reverberated within their chests. The older man stepped forward again, desperation etched deeply into his furrowed brow. "You don't understand. Power without control leads to ruin." But another voice rose above the clamor. A woman, fierce and unapologetic, broke through the hesitance. "What's worse, living in fear or seizing our fate?" Her challenge ignited a flicker of hope in some hearts, while others shifted closer to the outer edges of the throng, ready to flee. The boy, who had reached for the woman earlier, trembled again, his fingers curling into fists. "You don't want this. You could die." But others were mesmerized. Those glowing pops, bright as stars, sparkled under the marketplace lights, drawing the weak-willed like moths to flame. One by one, people began to step forward, hands trembling, eyes wide with wild ambition. They grabbed the pyramid pops and raised them like trophies. The atmosphere thickened, these moments lingering like bad dreams before the dawn. Then she screamed. It cut through the chaos, a heated, primal sound that seemed to tap into something deep inside the crowd. "Taste the power." The darkness flowed through her, vibrant and hungry, awakening the echoes of the ancients. "Join me if you dare." Almost instantaneously, the ground shook. Cracks appeared, jagged lines splitting the earth. The market stalls trembled, and fruit rolled off tables, splattering against the ground, a riot of color against the dust. People stumbled back. But the call was irresistible to some. The choice had been made. They saw it all unfold like a tragic play. Each pyramid pop was a ticket to a different reality, a vortex of uncontrolled potential. A fist punched the air, and delighted shouts erupted as another soul became engulfed by the shadows, consumed by an overwhelming luminance that promised everything but exacted a steep price. And the young woman, once a frightened soul among them, now stood elevated. An ethereal glow surrounded her, illuminating a visage transformed, eyes glinting with ancient wisdom, mouth curled into a smile that sent shivers down spines. She was a queen of the underworld, yet her humanity flickered beneath the surface. "Witness the true nature of your existence," she declared, a haunting harmony in her words. The crowd felt the weight of those words, tugging, pulling them in. Fear swelled, mixing with a dangerous exhilaration as people stumbled between desire and dread. "Is this my fate?" the boy whispered, staring at his hands as they reached forward, then recoiled. The decision was teetering on a razor's edge. The wind swirled with their collective thoughts, her voice beckoning, soothing yet dangerous. "Fear binds you, but to embrace the unknown is to find freedom. What would you choose?" Gasps erupted from the multitude as the sky darkened, filled with ominous clouds that twisted and turned overhead, the ominous harbinger of what was to come. The drums restarted, a fierce rhythm pulsing like a heartbeat, synchronizing with the chaos in their souls. As the tremors of the earth beneath them grew stronger, the girl raised her hands to the sky. Thunder clapped, a sound that resonated deep within every chest. The power rose like smoke, curling and weaving through the air, begging for acceptance, and in that moment, dread and desire intertwined like lovers in a forbidden dance. Would they hold back, or would they leap into the abyss together, forever changed by the choices they made? In the gathering darkness, more voices joined her, a chorus rallying the power of the past, echoing challenges of fate. And as they teetered on the brink, something slithered from the shadows, waiting for the final move. What dwelled there, just out of its reach? Could it awaken further havoc on already trembling souls? The ground continued to tremble beneath the weight of uncertainty and anticipation. Shadows flickered like restless spirits, and the air crackled with something electric, something primal. The people were caught in a current, their limbs heavy yet twitching with a mix of fear and excitement. "What is happening?" a woman cried, her voice rising above the crowd, filled with panic. She clutched her child tightly, eyes darting around for answers that wouldn't come. "Stay together," an elderly man shouted, trying to rally what little order remained. But chaos rippled like a wave, damping his resolve. The young woman at the center pulsed with dark energy, and the pyramid pops glimmered enticingly, drawing ever more souls into her orbit. "Join me. Taste the thrill of power," she invited, her voice lowering to a seductive whisper. The shadows seemed to respond to her beckoning, coiling around her fingers, spiraling outward to touch the crowd. Some people staggered toward her, entranced. Others recoiled, fear etched on their wild expressions. Suddenly, the ground quaked violently, a booming roar erupting from deep within the earth. A fissure yawned wider, the void seemed to gleam with a light unholy and divine. In that moment, the boy caught a glimpse of the dark void swirling beneath. It pulled at him with a force he couldn't comprehend, and his heart raced with terror. "Don't look!" he shouted to those nearest him, words grappling with the chaos. But it was too late. Eyes, wide with horror, were glued to the abyss where crimson smoke began to rise, twisting into shapes that seemed almost human, wraiths caught between realms, pale faces stretched in silent screams. In a profound declaration, the young woman howled, "This is the awakening. The moment of truth has arrived." The glow around her intensified, almost unbearable to behold. She turned, a ghost of a smile creeping across her lips as if savoring the panic she had unleashed. Distant rumblings of thunder echoed the unsteady heartbeat of the crowd, and lightning split the sky, illuminating the faces of both the terrified and the enthralled. Will you come willingly or be dragged? She taunted, her laughter a chilling melody. Then, as if in answer, a figure emerged from the shadows, almost lost in the tumult. It was a man, bathed in darkness but moving with unfathomable grace. He stepped forward, eyes gleaming with an intensity that sent shivers through those who dared to look. "You're not the only one who can command the dark," he proclaimed, voice like honeyed poison. The crowd gasped, torn between the two powers that now vied for their allegiance. The young woman, who had ignited this spectacle, narrowed her eyes, a cat ready to pounce. "You dare challenge me?" she hissed, shadows writhing in approval. "Challenge? No, my dear," he replied, his smile sinister and enticing. "I've come to show you the limits of our power. Are you prepared for what lies beyond?" The boy's heart thudded painfully in his chest, his body caught between the compulsion to flee and the urge to fight. Suddenly, another crack split the earth, sending everyone lurching back. Smoke billowed, obscuring the once familiar marketplace. In the face of chaos, hopes shattered and desires twisted, all seemed suspended in a heartbeat. Would this confrontation lead to salvation or destruction? As warning shouts resonated, fear became palpable, clawing at throats, squeezing chests. Then, without warning, the man waved his hand, summoning the shadows to dance. They burgeoned and erupted, forming a serpentine figure that moved toward the young woman. "You will see," he proclaimed, and his malice chilled the air. As the serpent surrounded the girl, her features twisted from awe to defiance. She wasn't just waiting to fall, she was ready to confront whatever darkness lay ahead. A thunderous clap of lightning split the sky just as their eyes locked, a signal that marked the beginning of their duel. The crowd drew in a collective breath, hanging on the precipice of fate, wrestling with their choices. In that tense moment, an unexpected voice rang out, rising above the chaos, "No more shadows." All eyes shifted, startled. But who dared speak against the powers now unleashed? As the question lingered in the air like a heavy fog, a figure stepped forward from the crowd, someone they thought they knew, someone who could change everything. A hush fell over the crowd as the figure emerged, stepping into the faint glimmering light that filtered through the chaos. The boy squinted, trying to discern who it was, his pulse racing. Could it really be her? As she moved closer, the shadows seemed to part for her, a strange and unexpected grace surrounding her. "I've had enough," she declared, confidence radiating from her. Those nearest to her watched in stunned silence, recognition flooding their eyes. It was Maya, the girl known for her quiet demeanor and unassuming smile. Yet here she was, transformed before them, her hair whipping in the wind, a symbol of defiance. "Stop this madness!" Maya shouted, her voice cutting through the tension like a knife. Those who had been mesmerized by the woman in the center turned to Maya, eyes filled with confusion. She placed herself between the man and the young woman, a small but fierce presence. "What do you think you can do?" The young woman sneered, amusement flickering across her face, shadows crackling around her like fireflies. "You think your bravery will save you?" "Bravery alone won't save anyone," Maya replied, her voice steady. "But it's the only weapon we have left." With every word, she seemed to draw strength from the crowd, their shared memories filling the air, a reminder of happier times, friendships forged, laughter that echoed in these very streets before darkness settled in. It was a flicker of hope, fragile yet pulsing with life. The man cloaked in shadow took a step forward, a menacing presence as his smile deepened. "You should know better than to meddle in this. The dark offers freedom. What do you have but memories?" he asked, his voice a silky whisper. Maya's heart raced, but she felt it, the strength shared by the people around her. "We have each other. We have our choices." Her voice rang out, carried by the winds of invisible courage. It buzzed like electricity in the charged atmosphere. "Choices?" the young woman mocked. "Look around. They want power, freedom from their fear. You can't offer them that." But Maya's gaze steadied. "I can offer them strength. Together, we're stronger than any shadows you can summon. The crowd reacted, a slow murmur rising like a tide hope surging. Each person stood a little taller, the trembling in their limbs replaced by a flicker of resolve. As the ground beneath them pulsed again, Maya felt a bond forming, a shiver of energy connecting them all like a single heartbeat. It grew louder, alive with fervor. She could feel it, a collective will rising, refusing to yield. Then let this be a battle of wills. The man declared, as the air thickened with dark energy. Waves of shadows began to swirl dangerously at his feet, preparing for a fierce onslaught. Then let us reclaim our light, Maya countered. Her voice rose, igniting into passion that echoed against the drums of the storm. You'll need more than words, little girl, the young woman snarled, her laughter ringing hollow. Shadows surged, twisting like serpents unleashed, reflecting her fury. Maya closed her eyes, drawing on everything she had, the love of her friends, the laughter, the memories, and her will to fight. In that instant, the air around her buzzed, a warm glow enveloping her, defying the darkness creeping closer. Just as the first shadow lunged, she thrust her hand forward, summoning the power of their combined spirits. Would they stand together, or would the darkness swallow them whole? As the first clash echoed, a blinding light erupted, and for a moment, it felt like anything was possible. But who would survive when the darkness struck back? And what price would they have to pay for their defiance? The light exploded outward, bathing the chaos in a brilliant halo. Murmurs of disbelief rose from the crowd. Eyes widened as the shadows hesitated, flickering like candle flames in a gust of wind. Maya's pulse quickened. She could feel their energy intertwining with hers, their hope solidifying into something tangible beneath her fingers. She opened her eyes, staring into the encroaching darkness. Together! She shouted, calling for unity. The faces in the crowd flickered with determination. They knew fear, but now, they also knew resolve. The man in shadows recoiled, his amusement fading. You really think you can defeat me? He barked, eyes narrowing into slits. Yes. The crowd responded in unison, their voices rising like a tide crashing against a stormy shore. It was a sound of defiance that shook the very foundation around them, but the young woman shrieked, venom seeping into her voice. Shut them up. She commanded, her hands dancing through the air as shadows leapt to her call, forming grotesque shapes like hungry wolves ready to pounce. As the dark forms lunged, despair tried to claw its way back into Maya's heart. But she refused to let it in. Instead, she focused harder, the warmth encircling her becoming a shield, a barrier against the encroaching dread. We will not back down. She declared, challenging the shadows with every ounce of strength she had. In an instant, a dark figure broke free, a shadow with a life of its own, racing toward her with twisted ferocity. Without thinking, Maya thrust her hands forward, calling upon the shared memories, the laughter, the light they all once cherished. A beam of light shot from her palms, colliding with the shadow, a sound like glass shattering echoing through the air. The crowd gasped as the shadow reeled back, flickering in and out like a dying flame. But behind it, more shadows surged forward, drawn to the scent of fear, angry and relentless. Maya could feel her energy waning. She wasn't sure how long she could hold them back. Don't give up. Came a voice from the back, a familiar one. It was Amir, his eyes blazing with determination. The crowd turned. He moved forward, joining Maya's side. We can do this together. He raised his hands, a spark igniting between him and Maya. Then others joined, energy swapping and intertwining, forming a multicolored current that pulsed with their collective strength. The shadows recoiled again, hesitating as their ranks faltered. It was a crack in their dark facade, a glimpse of vulnerability. Push them back. Maya shouted, and the crowd roared in agreement, unleashing their combined energy like a powerful tsunami. Suddenly, a fiery sphere, birthed from the collective will of the crowd, shot toward the dark figures, enveloping them in a blinding radiance. But just as victory sparked, the man cloaked in shadows laughed. Fools! You think a mere flame can consume the darkness? His laughter echoed like thunder, rumbling hard enough to shake Maya to her core. "Believe in our light." Maya screamed, feeling the flickering warmth once again. Yet beneath her bravado, uncertainty took root. What if their combined forces weren't enough? As the light began to push back, a rift opened behind the dark man, swirling with shadows darker than night. It pulsed ominously, threatening to swallow them all whole. The air vibrated with an otherworldly energy that sent shivers down everyone's spine. What was that portal? Where would it lead? Just as Maya braced herself for what awaited, the ground trembled violently, sending cracks radiating through the pavement beneath them. Would they emerge victorious, or was this the beginning of their end? The air crackled with tension as the tremors rolled beneath their feet, each crack splitting the ground like an angry earthquake. Maya steadied herself, gripping Amir's arm tightly. Fear flickered in his eyes, mirroring the chaos surrounding them. She could sense the crowd's collective dread rising, their hope and light dimming under the weight of the encroaching darkness. "Hold tight!" Maya shouted, channeling every ounce of her energy into the thrumming light that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. The shadows quivered, existing on the edge of panic as they met the blinding radiance. Yet, the laughter of the man in shadows cut through the air, rich with disdain. "You think this light can save you?" His voice dripped with malice, chilling their resolve. More shadows erupted from the rift, each darker than the last, whirling like tempestuous storms. They twisted into monstrous forms, gnashing teeth, grinning grotesquely at their feast. A scream erupted from the crowd, a single note of pure terror that resonated with everyone's deepest fears. Maya's heart raced, a lump formed in her throat. "No. Stay strong," she urged, pumping energy into the converging light. As her voice cracked, doubt crept in. Would the light be enough against this relentless tide? Beside her, Amir wrapped an arm around her, grounding her in the moment. "You're not alone," he whispered fiercely. The warmth of his resolve ignited a renewed spark within her. Maya closed her eyes briefly, visualizing the happiest moments in her life, the laughter, the love, the warmth of daylight. The realization came rushing back: this was not just her fight, it was theirs. Together. Maya cried, lifting her hands once more. A surge of energy rippled through the crowd, faces lighting up with determination. The shadows hesitated, and for a moment, the air was electric, pulsing with hope. Then it happened. The ground beneath them cracked wider, echoing a final, lonely rumble as though it were warning them. A dark force erupted from the rift in the ground, a swirling vortex that expanded rapidly, pulling in everything in its path: fear, shadows, chaos, and threatening to consume them all. "No. Not like this." The young woman's voice rang out from the shadows, her hands weaving through the air, summoning swirls of darkness that began to climb toward the easing light. Shadows snaked toward Maya, aiming to rip away their fragile unity. Maya felt the fear clawing at her heart again, but she pushed it away. Now wasn't the time for doubt or despair, it was time to fight. "Look!" Amir shouted, pointing at the portal. It was vibrating now, as if it were waiting for something more. The portal began to pulse rhythmically, and there, deep within, strange shapes loomed, entities that seemed to have a life of their own, swirling just out of sight. "What are they?" Maya whispered, her voice trembling with an urgency she couldn't mask. "Are they alive?" The crowd murmured, eyes glued to the ever-deepening darkness. The man's laughter echoed again, more sinister this time. "You cannot comprehend the truths that lie beyond." He gestured toward the rift, shadows writhing in command. "You're about to learn that darkness is more than a mere absence of light." Suddenly, the ground beneath them groaned, and the shadows surged forward, desperate to break the barrier of light with ravenous greed. Just as the tide seemed insurmountable, a roar erupted from the crowd, a sound so fierce that it shook the air, fueled by defiance. "Push them back!" Maya screamed, shaking with energy as light coiled at her fingertips, ready to be unleashed, but as she prepared to strike, the rift flared one last time. A figure emerged, a twisted mix of shadow and flesh, eyes glowing with an unholy light. "Welcome to the abyss," it hissed, its voice like ice slicing through the air. could they hold their ground against this nightmare-given form? Or was the abyss too deep to escape? Maya's breath hitched in her throat as uncertainties flooded her mind. What lay ahead was uncharted territory, teetering on the edge of despair and hope. The figure loomed larger, its features a grotesque blend of human and shadow, a nightmare made manifest. The eyes that stared at Maya were filled with an ancient hunger, a hunger that seemed to seep into her very soul. "I've awaited your arrival, sweet light-bearer," it crooned, the voice both seductive and menacing. Maya's heart pounded louder than the chaos around her. She couldn't let this creature pierce through her defenses. Beside her, Amir tightened his grip, steadying her trembling bones. "What do we do?" he whispered, dread pooling in his voice. Together, Maya insisted, channeling their shared determination into a radiant shield. It shimmered around them, a fragile cocoon of warmth against the chilling darkness. But the shadows surged, a dark tide crashing against their light, spiraling with furious intensity. A shrill scream sliced through the air, reverberating in waves of panic as a shadow creature lunged forward, engulfing the bright barrier. Maya's heart dropped as the edges of her light flickered under the onslaught. "No. We can't let them in," she shouted, desperation clawing at her throat. "We have to push back." But the laughter continued to ripple from the figure in the rift. "You think mere light can vanquish what has endured for eons? You are but children playing in the dark." With a rush of adrenaline, Maya unleashed a pulse of radiance that surged like wildfire toward the shadows. The howl of darkness met her light, fracturing for a moment, but only for a moment. The shadows shifted, merging back together, reforming even stronger. "We are the abyss," the entity hissed, "and we are many." Amir surged forward, a fierce look of determination in his eyes. "You don't have to face this alone, Maya," he shouted, raising his own hands to contribute to the light. "We will push back together." His voice rang like a bell, and Maya felt the warmth radiate from their union. But just then, the ground erupted, fracturing the earth with a deafening roar. A fissure zigzagged toward them, tearing apart the remnants of their support. The crowd gasped as panic seized them, the collective fear becoming a palpable entity that danced along the edges of their light. "Get back! Move!" Maya yelled, her voice blending with the screams around her. It was a chaotic scramble as people stumbled, trying to evade the gaping maw of darkness that threatened to consume them all. "Don't give in!" Amir shouted, pulling Maya closer as the shadows clawed at the edges of their sanctuary. Then, just as chaos threatened to swallow them whole, flickers of courage ignited in a few brave souls. A man clutched a lamp, its light flickering defiantly against the encroaching darkness. A woman raised her phone, the screen glowing, illuminating her face with a fierce determination. One by one, others joined, holding on to whatever scraps of light they could muster. "We will not let fear win," they declared, voices rising in unison, a testament to their shared plight. Maya felt the energy swell, the warmth of hope cascading around her. They were drawing strength from one another, battling the encroaching darkness as a collective force, but the figure from the abyss shifted, dark tendrils writhing. "Foolish mortals! Bind yourselves to your light, but it will only prolong your suffering." Its voice carried the weight of countless ages, a chilling reminder of what they faced. Maya felt a spine-tingling shiver wash over her. Could hope truly triumph against such an ancient malevolence? In the refracted light, she glimpsed shadows dancing just outside the fringes, those they had lost, those they still feared. "Hold strong!" she cried, aiming her own light straight towards the looming figure. Their eyes locked for a moment, and for the first time, she felt the abyss tremble. But was it enough to overcome the dark? And if they fought back, what would this ancient evil truly unleash? Maya's heart raced with a mixture of hope and dread, the air thickening with uncertainty as they steeled themselves for an impending clash. The time had come to face their deepest fears. Would the radiant spirits of the crowd withstand the abyss, or had they merely awakened something far more sinister? And as the shadows shifted and lunged with an insatiable hunger, she could only wonder, what horror lay waiting in the depths, unseen and unspeakable. The chaos swirled, shadows clashing against light in an explosive spectacle. The figure from the abyss twisted and writhed, dark tendrils going for anything they could grasp, fueled by a hunger deeper than night. Maya felt the deafening vortex of shadows thrumming at the edges of their sanctuary, gnashing teeth barely obscured by swirling darkness, but in the eye of the storm, she stood resolute. "Feel the strength within us." Her voice rang out, echoing against the dread. "Together, we can push back the abyss." She raised her hands high, channeling every ounce of unity into a blazing beam of light, golden and warm, illuminating the shadows with an ethereal glow. And with every heart that joined her, every hand that held steady, the light brightened. Flickers of courage ignited around her, like stars breaking through the darkest of skies. Amir was by her side, his eyes ablaze with determination. Together, they shared a fierce connection that grew stronger than any shadow. "Now!" Maya shouted, and with that, they unleashed a wave of energy, a surge reverberating through the crowd. The darkness hissed, recoiling as the light undulated, pulsating with the rhythm of hope. As the shadows attempted to swarm like a monstrous wave, they met the barrier that forged anew, shimmering defiantly against their relentless assault. "Push them back!" Amir echoed, igniting the hearts of the onlookers, who began shouting in unison, a battle cry that electrified the air itself. Wave after wave of light cascaded from the collective will of those gathered, illuminating the encroaching darkness and revealing glimpses of terrified faces now emboldened by their fight for survival. Maya glanced at the rift, sensing the urgency coursing through the crowd. "We must channel our memories," she screamed over the roar. "Think of all we have experienced together. Let them fuel our power." Visions flooded them, laughter shared in simple moments, warmth wrapped around them in days gone by, moments when all felt right in the world. With every recollection, they summoned the courage to rise against the shadows. The abyss rumbled, the figure it manifested twisting as if threatened by the intensity of their combined light. "Foolish mortals!" The abyssal creature howled, "You will learn the taste of despair." The shadows twisted violently, lunging towards the radiant circle of hope. But every time they reached out, they were met by a shield forged not only of light, but forged in unity, a testament to friendships that refused to crumble under pressure. And then it turned. Indeed, something had shifted. A beam of their collective energy burst forward, striking true against the figure. With a pulse that sent shockwaves through the crowd, the darkness cracked, splintering apart like shattered glass. "Look!" someone shouted, pointing to the central shadow. Within its depths, the bright gleam of light pierced through, breaking the illusion of the abysmal horror they faced. Maya's heart raced. "Now!" she cried, "this is our moment. Push together." Once more, they surged forward in a flourishing rush, the flames of connection enveloping them. Bright blue and warm gold blended, a powerful wave crashing through the darkness, ripping apart solitary shapes and banishing them back into the cracks of the earth itself. A final scream of agony echoed as the abyss recoiled, shadows dissipating like mist at dawn. Starlit whispers danced through the air, and with a clash a white flash consumed the entirety of the marketplace. Silence fell. Maya blinked, overcast in a sea of blinding light. They had prevailed. Slowly, the brightness dulled, revealing the familiar surroundings, a marketplace once vibrant and alive, now silent in its recovery from the dark. Around her, the crowd began to awaken from the trance, eyes wide, smiles blooming, hesitant yet hopeful. The shadows that had once lurked within the depths were revealed as nothing more than tricks of the mind, dispelled by unity and perseverance. They had triumphed together, reclaiming their power and light. Maya was engulfed by friends, warmth embracing her like a reassuring blanket. Amir squeezed her hand tightly, relief spilling from his face. "We did it," he whispered, hardly able to catch his breath, but the victory felt bittersweet. They had stared into the depths of despair, the very horrors that clawed at their hearts. The shadows may have fled, but the memory of their potential return lingered. Yet, with hands held together and memories forged anew, they felt stronger. "Remember this," Maya called to the crowd, "we are more than our fears. We have the strength to face the darkness. Together, we will always rise." Cheers erupted, a cascading chorus celebrating their unity and triumph. Wreathed in the dulcet tones of joy, the marketplace began to teem with warmth and life once again. The flickers of laughter, the bustling of vendors, and the sense of spices filled the air, reminding them that even in the shadows, joy could reign once more. As the sky began to lighten with the first blush of dawn, they knew that they had not only survived, they had truly lived, forever marked by their journey into the darkness, forever bound by the courage it took to return. Now, a new day hung before them, the echoes of their choices vibrating through the newfound light, a beacon shining throughout the sands of time. So, as the sun crested over the pyramids, illuminating the desert sands in golden hues, the memories of their fears intertwined with hope. This was just the beginning. But before you leave and lose track of the unfolding stories ahead, you need to subscribe right now so you don't miss out on the next exclusive tales. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Your support is crucial. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Let's hear how you felt. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your loyalty matters, and every action counts.